welcome everybody. My name's Maralee Burnett. I am your astrologer, back with the messages for the week of March 31st, which is, of course, the end of the first 3 months of the year. We have just finished the new moon solar eclipse, and we have just seen Neptune move into the sign of Aries for the first time in our lifetime. Of course, you already know all of that if you follow me, and if not, go ahead and click on that subscribe button below. Give me a big thumbs up, and feel free to share this information with somebody that you think could benefit from it as well. So we will break down the week ahead. As I mentioned, we've got a lot of big shifts and changes. If you'd like to read about all of the changes, go to my website, maraleeburnett.com. There you can access the month of April's horoscope information. And then within that monthly guide, you'll see a breakdown day by day, which will include the upcoming full moon and the new moon that will happen in April. Once you're a member of my website, then I email those articles out to you. You don't have to go digging and finding them, and I do not spam you. Also on my website, you will find the link to any of my specials. I'll still have the eclipse specials out there because we have eclipses twice a year. So while we're just finishing the first set, in September, we'll have the second set as well. So we're always constantly working. It's never going to stop, especially in this year. All right, so all that behind us, let us just jump right in. This, of course, is a general forecast. I'm focusing on most of the bold interactions as far as energy goes day by day, and I use the Astro Gold software. I am currently in Arizona, which is now on West Coast time. Timing isn't really that important unless you're looking at the creation of, say, something like your solar return chart. All right, but for our weekly forecast, we are just going to jump right in, and we will get started, of course, here on Monday, which is the last day of March. Unbelievable. With so much going on, though, it's no surprise that things seem like they're just flying past us, even though we still have 2 planets and personal planets, so it's very noticeable, that are in retrograde. So as we start on Monday, we're going to see Venus is sitting right next to the North Node, and she'll head back to about 24 degrees of Pisces around the 12th of April, and that's where she will station to go direct. We also have Mercury right here as well. And that means we're starting to see post, I want to call it apocalypse, but post-eclipse, what work remains. And I've been saying that all year long. In fact, you can even go out and listen to my 2025 forecast, right, for the year ahead, how there's a lot of back and forth. Well, now we've seen what we want to get, what we want to go after with that Aries energy action. But before we can do that, right, we still have things we have to finish. And that's what Venus and Mercury are helping us to do. Of course, the North Node, as it goes through Pisces, is teaching us how to have faith, how to lean into our gifts, how to be more creative, how to trust our intuition. With Saturn's help, how to have healthy boundaries. So we're continuing that work, and we're continuing to review where we don't have those things in place. And now's the time that we have to do something about it, right? So this is the last week where we see Mercury fully retrograde, and then next week we'll talk about what's changing there as well. So that's important. And as they're meeting up with the North Node, that means, of course, they're opposing the South. So there's a strong need for balance as we kick off the week. Where can I get more in the flow, let go of control? Where do I still need things to be controlled, such as having good, healthy boundaries? Where am I focused on my mental health, which very much can be a Piscean theme, since it's the last house, it's subconscious mind. So there's a lot of healing that is still needed at this time. And then it was last weekend technically yesterday, whenever you're listening to this, but it was on Sunday that we saw that Neptune, for the first time in our lifetimes, had moved into the sign of Aries. Will there have been a big event? Maybe not, right? But what I like to think about the 0 degree spot in any of these signs is it's like a pre-test, right? So here's what's coming up for the next 14 years, because that's how long Neptune will be in the sign of Aries. And to get us ready, we may be shown what the work's going to be about. Now, you can go back 14 years ago to when Neptune first entered Pisces and kind of test that theory for yourself. What house or houses has Neptune been traveling through? Now, of course, in its own sign of Pisces, it was very strong. And that works both ways, right? So there was a lack of reality is a good way to describe that. Neptune can be very delusional if we decide we're going to tune in and tap in there. We could have seen a lot more drugs, like we saw a lot of issues with addictions and overdoses. It's also endings, right? We saw dramatic deaths in many ways. So there's that kind of darker side of the energy. And then on the lighter side, right? Having faith, having hope, all kinds of music and artists, all making big waves and splashes. So those are, of course, just a few things. I do have an article out there. You can always go check out, like I mentioned, the 2025 preview. You can always look at the horoscope for Pisces and tune in to my hypnosis sessions, all kinds of information again out there on my website to get a feel for that. But again, Monday, Neptune's here. It's at 0 degrees. So we are still spending this next several weeks getting comfortable with what Neptune and Aries can be about. So we talked about it last week too. Like, this can be a visionary. This can be a leader who gives us hope in some ways. This can be dissolving wars. This can be dissolving conflicts. Do they just disappear? Well, probably not, but they will eventually. And so this is, again, showing us how that needs to happen. And so that is what we're starting off with. And then an energy that we'll be talking about throughout the week is going to be this triangle of energy between Uranus, Mars, and Saturn. So that's going to be a supportive element all week long as well. Saturn, of course, gives us structure. Saturn is working with Uranus to help us be innovative with our planning. Mars and Saturn together help us take the right steps and the right action at the right times. And again, blue energy is sextiles and trines. It is there and available, but things don't just happen, right? It requires us to access the energy and do something with it. So that is how we get started. And then as Venus talks, of course, to that North Node, and again, I always say the North Node is lessons, right? We don't get on our path just because. Now, sometimes we do because we actually pay attention to what's showing up. And the North Node is guiding us with Venus's help towards something that we truly love and desire, and something that's aligned with our values and our value systems. Now, Pisces energy can be very far away places. This could be a woman in a leadership role overseas who is doing something notable on this day as well. And then, of course, in your own life, it's a great day to think back to, the January and February timeframe when Venus was first back here in the sign of Pisces, she wasn't speaking to Neptune. She wasn't speaking to the North Node yet on her last way through here because the North Node was still in Aries. So this is the first conversation, the first lesson that we get with the help of Venus: love, money, beauty, the valuables, the things that we consider valuable to us that we'd be willing to spend money on or make sacrifices for. So that's what comes up for us on Monday. All right, let's move to Tuesday. April Fool's Day. What kind of jokes will you do? My kids and I always tend to take trips around this time. We always made some practical joke about moving wherever we were on vacation, and we'd freak everybody out at home. So what's your fun family stories? What do you do to make April Fool's Day fun for you, and what practical jokes might you do? Let me know in the comments below. But as we get started on a new month, it's always good to wake up and say rabbit, rabbit, and call in your good luck for the month ahead. I'm definitely going to be doing that. And we still see here on Tuesday that the North Node and Venus are still having a conversation, still teaching us some lessons, and they'll align again with the moon in Taurus throughout the day as it transitions from this energy that Venus is the ruler of and then on to Gemini, so that we can have a little back and forth, a little difficulty making decisions. So you really have to trust your intuition as we look at Tuesday. All right, short and sweet. Let's move to Wednesday. All right, on Wednesday, here we go. Now for the next couple of days, as you know, Venus moves on from her lessons given to her by the North Node on what the things are in the past that she needs to go clean up. Now we have Mercury that comes and has the important conversations. So now, again, we're seeing what was shown to us previously when Mercury was walking through the sign of Pisces. But again, it was not walking through with the North Node. So there are fated events. There can be fated movement. There's definitely information that's being brought to the surface. When I think about retrograde planets in the sign of Pisces, things that were hidden going forward now start to get dug up and brought to the surface. So information is very important to pay attention to. If you're traveling, you need to take it easy and go slow, especially if you're in or around water. So just be careful. Again, listen to the voices in your head, not the scary ones, but the ones that are, seem to pop in and give you instructions. Those are the ones that you want to be listening to, and especially listening to them over the next couple of days. Also on Wednesday, that energy I talked about being there to guide us this week with Uranus, Mars, and Saturn is at a peak. So they're all at 24 degrees now. And again, working to help us break free, to make dramatic changes. It could be a leader that is the one that's trying to drive the change, and it's all supportive, right? These are two outer planets with Saturn and Uranus, and Saturn and Uranus have a complicated relationship as far as mythology goes. And then there's Mars, the one that's out there willing to do all the work and charge forward, especially now that Mars is getting closer and closer to getting the heck out of Cancer, which it really can't wait to leave. So whatever you're feeling inspired as far as actions to take, you got to do it. Now, you will do it slowly because that's what Saturn and Mars say. It's like, okay, here's the idea. Here's the potential. I want you to start planning on what you're going to do to make these big, significant changes. And that's your work on Wednesday. Now, here too, we're going to watch as I progress this on Thursday, that now that will be the day where maybe the information was starting to come up on Wednesday, and then Thursday it's like, whoa, okay, here's the information I need in order to get on my path, right? That's us as individuals. And then as the collective, it's the same thing. So as a collective, these are our lessons: being more Piscean, having faith, trust, creativity, healing, so that whatever we need to learn about the work that's ahead of us for the whole rest of the year, something in the conversation with this Mercury energy related to things that have happened in the past is important for us to have a clear understanding in order to complete the work. And keep in mind, right, the eclipse has kicked off all of this opposition energy between the South Node and Virgo, and then all this Piscean, watery, emotional energy, things about the past being stirred up, all the secrets. And, Virgo down here is saying, I told you this lack of control was going to cause a problem, and I can show you how to fix it, but you have to go back to the past in order to understand what details were missed, what facts were misleading in order to create this change. And the fact that on Thursday we have the moon in a T-square with the nodes tells me there's something faded, right? Something about the past that is creating something that causes us emotional distress and then causes us to want to make the changes, right? So that's our energy on Thursday. As we move ahead to Friday, you're going to see, not a lot is shifting and changing, except that, as I mentioned, Venus is getting closer and closer to her endpoint. So this planet's energy, as it slows down, is actually going to kick up, right? Because it's like putting on the brakes and you're kind of slamming forward, right? Because that's where the energy is taking you before you sit back and come to a full stop and then change directions. So we have about a week here where Venus isn't moving very fast or very far. In fact, she'll catch up with Mercury here next week as they complete their retrograde mission, and so do you. So we're watching that, and as Mercury slides past the North Node, right? Well, it's got instructions, and it's taking that information with it to, again, work with Venus and work with Saturn. So again, these planets have work to do, and so do you. And right now, because of their location, they're adding in to whatever this Saturn, Uranus, and Mars work is for you as well. So there's a lot of water energy, a lot of emotions going on this week. And that means your emotions, your feelings, your intuition are heightened. We have to pay attention to what we're feeling and not just what we're being told. The words that we hear right now, we can't exactly trust, but our feeling, our guides, that's where we need to be putting our time and attention. Okay. As we move to Friday, it's like all this work, whatever it is this week, is just continues to increase. I mean, look at how many planets now are involved in whatever this work is. So it tells me it's a big deal. Now that Mars and Moon energy combined, of course, the Moon's strong in the sign of Cancer, and then they're working with all these Piscean energy. So it tells me there's something, and maybe this innovator at the top of all of this work with Uranus, is helping bring everybody together to create a solution that works for the greater good in some way that is going to become extremely important. And adding to all of this positivity is also Jupiter in Gemini cruising right along, speaking in harmony with the sun. And so whatever Jupiter touches, it expands. So there is potentially a leader that is making headway at this time, teaching us something, maybe showing us the other side of something. Jupiter is a teacher. The sun in Aries is about our individual self. It's about being a leader. It's about being a fighter. And Jupiter teaches us what we need to do and how we need to do it, and do it for the greater good, right? Do something that helps us grow and expand. So there can be somebody out there, a leader in government role, that's trying to expand their country and expand their borders, and it, would cause conflict. And there's others that might be protecting their countries. They might create unexpected alliances in order to do so. That's the energy of this all going on. But it is very positive. So it feels more like somebody is doing something helpful versus being combative. But everybody tunes into the energy the way they want. So let's keep an eye on what's happening here in Saturday's energy. I hope it's turning out amazing and well for you. All right. Here, the other thing that's helpful, and why I still have that theme of women in a leadership role doing something important, is now here we have Venus having a conversation with Saturn, right? And Saturn says women can be taken more seriously, women in power. Like I said, a woman who's overseas, a woman who's an artist, a musician, could make a commitment at this time, like a surprise wedding. We'll see. But also leaders, right? Working together, a woman and a male older figure working together to, combining all of the plans. And again, it can be a time where financially you figure out what matters to you, how to restructure your finances, how to redo things around the house, right? Maybe you're redoing a pool, right? It's water energy and it's beauty. Venus is, what are you wanting to beautify? And Saturn says, here's the plan. Venus is also, loves being in dreamy Pisces energy. And Saturn is like, wake up and take off the rose-colored glasses. So there can be some opportunities, again, for us to see the truth, and seeing the truth in some way, based on the house that this is happening in for you, is what can help create some breakthroughs. So it's a big, big energy week ahead. And as we finish off on Sunday, what we're going to see here is Mercury is slowing way down and getting ready to turn. So while Venus started her retrograde first back on March 1st, she won't end it because her pace is slightly slower than Mercury's until April 12th. But here on April 7th is when Mercury will complete its work, and so will we. So there's been 3 weeks of not wanting to do anything, not feeling motivated, just wanting to get lost in our dreams and lost in the clouds. But now, as Mercury starts to slow down, that fogginess is going to start to clear. All that rest you did is going to help you have the reserves and the energy to start moving something forward. What is your dream? chances are whatever your dream is, it's going to start showing up. You're going to start showing up and want to start moving things forward. And then keep in mind, whatever Mercury just discussed with the North Node, well, it's going to quickly have a follow-up conversation. And so whatever information has been shown to you, you're going to gain clarity and want to do something with it. So that is how we are going to wrap up the week. I can't wait to see it myself. So let's quickly just take a peek, like I said, at next week, which here we go. Mercury is getting ready and has stationed to go direct. And so as I mentioned, it's going to go direct and then have that follow-up conversation with the North Node on Monday. So get ready for that. And then also I mentioned on the 12th is when we'll see Venus stationed to go direct as well. But as she does, she's having this very long, right, extended conversation with Saturn. And again, like the Mercury and North Node conversation, of course, Venus will also go back and talk to the North Node next week as well. Saturn's really, really working on your Venus energy, giving you a plan, giving you the structure, restricting you in some way so that you can really figure out what you need to change. Maybe this is a pattern in love and relationships for you that does not work, a relationship that does not work for you anymore, and you know it, and it has to be dissolved. Maybe this is the way you spend money on things that involve your beauty, right? Your clothes, your jewelry, your flashy cars. And Saturn is like, that it's enough, right? You don't need to keep doing this anymore. Whatever the storyline is for you really depends on where the house is that this is happening for you. So take a look at that and see what work has been showing up for you, as I mentioned, since January when Venus was first going through this area of your chart. What have you been working on then to review since March? Well, now's the time to show up and finish the work. And then we'll have lots to talk about as they start moving forward. But again, all this work is faded because this North Node and South Node next week are all being activated again, but now with forward momentum. Okay, so whatever has happened at the eclipse, this is what you had to go back and complete so that you can start moving on and moving forward. And Neptune's giving you the vision of what that is here in the sign of Aries. So you just got to show up. And Mars is giving you the motivation. So the whole time, right? Mars, Uranus, Saturn, Neptune sitting there cheering everybody on from Aries is saying, come on, guys, I'm waiting for you. What do you have to share with me? What's your big ideas? What are your dreams? I'm going to listen to you, planets, as you come by, says Neptune, and inspire you and motivate you, because that's what Aries energy does, right? It inspires us, it fires us up, it motivates us to then go after our dreams. All right. It feels like a good kickoff, right, to a new month or after the eclipse season. We still have some things to complete, and this is the time to do it. All right. Let me know how this is going for you. If you want to book a session with me where we can dive deep and look at not just the transit, but what's happening in your natal chart. Do you have planets in these later degrees of Pisces or these very early degrees of Aries? You're going to feel this the most. And especially with Mars and Uranus combining with all of this Piscean energy, you don't want to drown, right? Because this is a lot of emotion. It can be a lot of heaviness. So you got to make sure you get moving. Even if you feel a bit like isolating because this is heavy 12th house energy, that's okay. But do what you love, and don't drown in sorrow. Don't sit lost in regret, right? Whatever's happened has happened to this point, and it's time to make peace with it. Very Piscean energy. And then it's time to start moving forward. All right, guys, I hope to hear from you. I hope all the materials I have out there are helpful to you. And I hope this eclipse season is lighting a path for you and leading you towards your dreams. All right, guys, so thankful that you've tuned in. I'll talk with you next week. Take care. Be sure and check out your weekly tarot card messages as well. Those, along with this astro lesson, are going to give you the big picture. Thanks again for tuning in. Talk to you next week.